Selamat
Hari
Raya
to everyone. Little do we know, while we in Malaysia complaining about the MCO and restrictions of going across borders to celebrate Eid at our village, there are tons of Palestinians who are surviving and fighting for their own land during Eid. For us, after celebrating Eid with a huge feast and entertainment, we are bored on what to do next, whereas the Palestinians doesn't even know if they are still alive or not during the day. At least we can celebrate with our parents at home peacefully. O Allah, forgive us for all of the blessings that we have been ungrateful. Okay, talking about Palestinians, there are millions of them who have become refugees. Who is refugee? Refugees are ordinary people who live through extraordinary time. In the country they live in, conflict or persecutions have put them at risk. They have no other choice but to flee and to leave their country to seek safety. This means leaving a lot behind, one of the hardest decisions a person can ever take. So, what makes a person a refugee? Refugees are no longer in their own country and have crossed at least one border. Ongoing conflict may put them at risk if they return, or they are at risk of persecutions of their nationality, race, or sexual orientation, or because they associate with a religion, a social group, or a political opinion. Some get jailed or harmed physically or mentally. Refugees often flee with no more than the clothes on their back and leave behind their everyday life. They may lose their home, their savings, their career, and often their family and loved ones. The journey to safety can be long and full of dangers. During the journey, people can get hurt, and sadly, many lose their lives. All of this can cause severe trauma. Fortunately, there are international laws to protect refugees. Refugees cannot be sent back to their country if it puts them at risk. Countries have a legal obligation to let refugees in and protect them. But even in a safe country, life as a refugee can be daunting. Refugees may continue to deal with trauma. Some are separated from their family and long to reunite with loved ones. There may be challenges related to adapting to a new environment. Host countries can provide assistance to learn the language and to adapt the cultural and other differences. But when does someone stop being a refugee? Some refugees can return home if the situation in their country becomes safe enough. Others will remain and integrate in their host country. With the right support, refugees can successfully integrate and make a new life for themselves. Some refugees eventually even become citizens of their host country. So, okay, probably you guys are wondering, what are the differences between refugee and immigrants? So, Brother Hazeeq, come on and help us.
Thank you, Taki, for the introduction of refugee. Many people believe that refugee and immigrant are the same thing. However, they are not the same, and we cannot actually treat them the same as well. So right now, I will be talking about the differences between refugee and also immigrant. As mentioned by Taki, refugee are people that have been forced out from their country. Reasons for them to being forced out by their own country is because of war, conflict, persecution, and also violence in their country that caused them to run from their own country. Immigrant, however, they are not being forced out by the country. They move to another country for other reasons, such as work, education, following family, and also to create a better lifestyle. Refugees are protected by the international law as mentioned by Taki. If they went to another country, that country must provide protection for the refugee. Immigration, however, they are not being protected by international law. they have their own migration law and they have to go through all of the process in order to migrate to another country. An example of migration is like the movie Karate Kid in 2010, where the young boy follows his mother to China to get a better lifestyle. In China, we see that the boy is struggling to adapt to the new situation and environment because of the language barrier, because of the culture barrier and whatsoever. However, he is lucky to find a old gentleman that helps him to adapt to the culture. If refugee went back to their respective country, they might face immediate danger and their freedom will be threatened. Immigrant, however, if they went back to their respective country, they will not face immediate danger or their freedom will be threatened. However, they went to other country for their own reason. The only similarity between refugee and immigrant are when they went to a new country, they will face barriers such as culture, communication, and also lifestyle. So they need to adapt to these things in order for them to create a better lifestyle. I believe that is all from me. I am passing this to next person.
We have so many other organizations under the government, some not even under the government, and they are helping these refugees in Malaysia live a proper life, living a life that they feel safe, they feel educated, they can grow from where they are right now. So, what do these organizations do? Like I said, they help, they provide food, they provide shelter. There are even some that are planning to build out a refugee school just to provide these refugees with proper education, with a proper lifestyle to ensure that they're living healthy, they're living happy, and they don't need to worry about the threat that is causing them any anxiety whatsoever. So we have societies such as UNICEF, where they are currently helping refugees from Syria by providing them shelter, food, education, and whatnot. Not only that, we have the AAM, which is the Asylum Access Malaysia, which is also a refugee organization, but it doesn't really specify only to Syria. It also ranges all the way from Rohingyas refugees to Myanmar's refugees to also Syria's refugees. And right now, those organizations are still growing as we speak. So to be as human beings, we should always hand out and donate or lend a helping hand to these organizations so they can help more people, more refugees, not only in Malaysia but all over the world.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Nur Yazmin Nadhirah, and for the next point, I will be explaining about the roles of United Nations to help refugees. Firstly, for thousands of years, people fleeing persecution and war have been given asylum in foreign lands. On September 19, 2016, the United Nations General Assembly conducted a high-level discussion to address refugees with the goal of uniting countries behind a more human and coordinated approach. The first United Nations agency is UNHCR, also known as United Nations Refugee Agency, is the agency that help refugees. It was established in the aftermath of World War II to assist Europeans who had been displaced by the conflict. Today, 59 million refugees are protected and assisted by a team of more than 9,700 people working in 126 countries. Several new awareness programs have recently been launched to provide help and raise awareness of the challenges that the refugees confront all across the world. Next, in 1949, the United Nations General Assembly designated the United Nations Relief and Works Agency (UNRWA) to assist registered Palestinian refugees in the Middle East. UNRWA provides direct assistance to Palestinian refugees, including primary and secondary education, healthcare, relief and social services, camp infrastructure, microfinance, and also emergency help. All in all, the role of United Nations to help refugees are very significant, and to put an end to this refugees crisis, every country must take part and prioritize not only saving refugees but also all human life. Every country and capable individual must work together to protect refugees and strengthen their capabilities so that millions of refugees do not lose access to basic human rights. It is past time to tear down the barriers of prejudice and hate and replace them with bridges of love and peace, because in the end, a refugee could be anyone. A refugee could be you and me. So that's all from me. Now I will pass this to the next person.
Hi, my name is Nur Izzati Batrisyia and I will be explaining on Myanmar Rohingya refugees. In August 2017, a deadly crackdown by Myanmar's army on Rohingya Muslims sent hundreds of thousands fleeing across the border into Bangladesh. They risked everything to escape by sea or on foot. Who are the Rohingya? The Rohingya, who numbered around 1 million in Myanmar at the start of 2017, are one of the many ethnic minorities in the country. Rohingya Muslims represent the largest percentage of Muslims in Myanmar, with the majority living in Rakhine State. They have their own language and culture and say they are descendants of Arab traders and other groups who have been in the region for generations. Why did they escape their own homes? The Rohingya refugee crisis is caused by the Rohingya people having long faced violence and discrimination in Myanmar. Armed conflict escalated in August 2017 in Rakhine State, causing Rohingya to flee to nearby Bangladesh. What about the refugees? The massive numbers of refugees who fled to Bangladesh in 2017 joined hundreds of thousands of Rohingya who had fled Myanmar in previous years. Kutupalong, the largest refugee settlement in the world according to the UNHCR, is home to more than 600,000 refugees alone. But in March 2019, Bangladesh announced it will no longer accept Rohingya fleeing Myanmar. Since the beginning of the crisis, UNICEF has been working with the Bangladesh government and other partners to deliver relief to children and families living in the refugee camps and settlements and in neighboring lost communities. How is UNICEF helping Rohingya refugees? Firstly, they provide clean, safe drinking water. They provide maternal and newborn health care, immunizing children to protect against vaccine-preventable diseases, also treating children suffering from severe malnutrition. Next, expanding access to education by establishing learning centers for school-age children, giving cash grants to primary and secondary schools to help them keep up with growing needs, providing counseling and emotional support services to children exposed to the violence and other traumas. Lastly, strengthening protection and support services for adolescent girls and women at risk of gender-based violence. In conclusion, the best thing that we can do to help Rohingya refugees are by donating to the nearby organization that will help Rohingya refugees. Apart from that, we may educate ourselves and spread awareness on social media like Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.